Hi everyone, this is Penguin Trades. We're looking at the ES futures on a 500 tick chart with a 21 EMA. So we've got our overnight high up here, our overnight low down here. These are our key levels for the day. And you can see from yesterday we have this downtrend, clear two-legged break, and then the start of today basically launched the second leg down. So we have these two legs down overall. Price is currently making the reversal. And these measured move levels, they're very important. They don't always react immediately. So when price met it here, it pushed on through it. But then after the reversal higher, we got a perfect retest right here before launching up again. So that's another aspect to measured moves. They're not always going to reverse directly off of them. Sometimes they push on through, go back, and then on a reversal, they act as a good support level. So anyway, I started trading a little later today, around 8:45ish, so around here, and we have this downtrend. We got this break. Of course, this downtrend and the break gives us the overnight high and low levels. And so we have a break, the downtrend is still in play, and we can expect prices to attempt a new low. Now, initially, right here, it made that new low attempt, failed, and that, of course, is what gives us the initial two-legged break here. And this two-legged break, it goes a little bit through it. We get a larger attempt, which fails and gives us a much bigger picture move higher. So you can see we have this measured move up, creating a larger two-legged break. Price reaches that measured move, we get a good reaction, and it attempts to push on down. So when price starts pushing on lower here, we can look to get in on this second leg. We just have to consider that we are in this uptrend here, and we need price to get through that level. If it does, we can get a couple legs back and get in on a failed second entry to get short and continue with that second leg down. And so anyway, it ends up just fading right back into this range right here. It wasn't a fully confirmed range at this point, but it was starting to get sideways, which makes sense because it just met this measured move. So it was already starting to get sideways, but at this point when it launches higher, that's when it's a whole lot clearer. And so it chops around for a bit. We have a couple of pushes down after retesting that measured move level. And I wasn't quite trading at this time. This is before 8, but I don't like this trade here for a long, because when you reach a measured move level, the chances of price reversing down are high. And so when you have a down measured move in play still based on the reversal down, it's just so likely that price is going to reach it. So that's why I don't like entering long right there below the EMA, right after the rejection of the EMA and all that. So anyway, I skipped that there, and let me just remove that. So price attempts to reverse down, corrects, second attempt fails, makes another retest of this level here. We get another two legs down, and then clearly at that point, with all these higher lows, it's clear that price is continuing with this overall uptrend that's forming. And so it's not good enough for a long here because, again, you did just push off of this triple top / measured move level. The chances of it pushing on down are pretty high, and so you don't know that it's going to go up from there. But it does end up going up again. We make another retest, making a quad top, and then that is finally when price is able to get enough bears to reverse. So anyway, we push on down here. We break this channel. As soon as it breaks, we get a small new high attempt, fails. That's why we have this two-legged break. So let me just zoom back in here. So when this uptrend gets this two-legged break, the measured move wasn't met, but it doesn't always need to. You can see on a smaller picture here, this downtrend has a break, two attempts at a new low, and then a reversal higher. So price is reversing higher here. It's attempting to make the new high for this uptrend that just broke. And when this uptrend here gets a break and then a push up to a new high, now this uptrend is played out. So these two legs up are the two attempts at a new high, and then that fails, and you can see it only makes lower highs from there on the way back down. So excuse me. So when price starts reversing higher here, we can look to get in on that long because, again, the uptrend has a break. We can expect prices to attempt a new high. But considering the quad top reversal right there, I would want to see a really clear two-legged move down after the fade back in. So like a push up, two clear legs down. I would really want to see two legs that look like this right here. So I can see that there is two smaller legs within that, but it's really small picture. It's not like it's two, totally clean, separated full legs. It's really just a push down, a quick push higher, another push down. It's very common to see legs like this that, take up these two smaller legs, because these are just two small legs on a bigger picture. And so I would want to see two legs down more like that with a clear hold above. And, in this case here, we're getting a good push below, a couple rejections. It's just not great for a reversal higher, especially right after a quad top measured move reversal. And it reacted very bearishly to that. So I'm just going to unclutter this a bit. I know there's a lot of drawings on the chart right now. And so anyway, price fails to reverse higher, so it continues lower. We got to combine these two legs into one. Let me just extend that there. Then this is the start of that second leg, so downtrend, break, and then we get their first attempt at a new low, and then we start that second attempt down there. The first attempt, of course, makes the new low, but it is very common to get a second attempt lower if price can't get past a previous resistance level. And so that's what we get here. We continue down with that second leg, and we reach that measured move right around here. Price has a little reaction to it. It goes into a range between that level and the overnight low, but it does ultimately break on out. And yeah, so really just nothing inside of the overnight range here for me. I didn't get anything until here after price really started moving down. And so anyway, we break out of the overnight low. We also push on through this level here, which, is these two levels combined. So I'm just going to show that. So as more price action forms, you got to make sure you're combining your legs and just making sure you're drawing out the bigger picture structures. So anyway, this is our first leg down now. We have what was initially the reversal attempt, which is now just the break between the two larger legs, and then we get the second leg down. So price pushes through the overnight low, it pushes through the measured move. What we want to see right here as price is breaking out is a two-legged retest. As price is pushing higher here, what I would want to see is price push on up. I would want the legs to be slightly bigger, of course, just so it can reach that measured move level, and then if you get a retest, then you can look to get short. In this case here, after that second leg started forming, it just very quickly dropped, and then we ended up getting something else down here. It's not a retest of a level, but it is still two fade attempts, and then I waited for that good bearish reaction, and this right here was basically just a continuation trade of the breakout. Price was so bearish that it pushed on through the measured move, pushed right through the overnight low, and then only after we got the bearish confirmation after the two attempts to reverse did I like it, and that looks like a great continuation trade. We continue lower here. We have a slight overshoot, ends up not really affecting at first. It just has a small push higher, and then immediately resumes back down, but then it does break right after that next push higher. And so when price breaks here, it's a downtrend with a break, so we can expect price to attempt a new low. It's how they play out. And that's exactly what it does. We get a very strong push straight on down to a new low, and then we immediately get a reversal higher. So you probably saw this trade recording. It's on the front of this video. And how I played it was I waited for a slight bearish reaction to the measured move level, because it is a direct reversal after a trend playing out. Now, price is so bearish at this point. I was anticipating getting a short around here. And so, but you do need to consider that a downtrend did just play out with a break to a new low, and it is actively reversing higher. And you generally don't want to enter right on a measured move during an active reversal. And so that's why I waited on the bearish confirmation. For all I know, it could just cut on through like butter. But if we get that bearish reaction, considering how bearish it is overall and how we have this larger red measured move still in play at this point, right after the break of a downtrend, because we can tell that even though it had a break and a new low, on a bigger picture, this is all clearly one leg down. The reversal attempt I'm anticipating to be the two-legged break, but I do need to see that bearish reaction first in order for confirmation, because if it's actively reversing higher, it could just cut on through. And so, I just wanted to mention that there. So anyway, we get our two-legged break. We get the bearish reaction there. I enter right there. 30-tick stop, 30-tick target, just wanting to ride it down to this previous swing here. It ends up chopping around for a bit. You can see it, because the entry that I took here, it was within this STT. Now, I'm not worried about that, because when you take a trade based on a measured move, you really don't have to worry about that and the EMA, because the big picture measured moves, they're very reactive, and It's very bearish. It's with the trend, and as long as you refine which measured moves you take, because obviously you can't just take every one of them. And in certain cases like this, of course, waiting on some confirmation, you can learn to take the best ones. But so I wasn't too worried about that, but it did end up needing a break and then a new high attempt because apparently that wasn't enough. And so this is why we use the stops we use, and this is why we use the targets we use. Even though this trend needed to have a bigger picture break and a bigger picture new high attempt, you can see it has a break, 2 legs up, attempting a new high before reversing on down. It still was no problem with our stop because based on the size of this trend right here and the break and the overall bearish context, we know that we can look to get short here. And so, you just have to understand that you need to leave space for price to possibly play out something on a bigger picture. So anyway, price continues lower here. As price pushes lower, this is, say you didn't get in on this or you didn't notice it, as price is pushing lower here, this is a good spot to get in on a failed second entry if one sets up. In this case here, it does not set one up. It just pushes straight on down, and then we reach the overnight. Sorry, not the overnight. We reach this red measured move level here. So as price reaches it, we get a small reaction, but it does ultimately just push right on through. So you can see here, even though we just have a new low from this downtrend break, new low, it still acts like a play out when breaking this thinner downtrend here, or this smaller downtrend here. We get a break, push down to a new low, and then it gets very choppy. We get 2 attempts to reverse. So you can see we break on through. We got our first attempt to reverse, second attempt. So this is a 2-legged retest of that measured move level. Now I was cautious of shorting here, and I ended up not shorting here because we did just make a brand new low, and then I didn't like how on the 2 attempts higher here, the first leg was closing back above the measured move level. The second leg was closing back above. It wasn't the greatest 2-legged retest. Ideally, the first leg doesn't even test it. Ideally, it's just a leg up, break, and then only the second leg retests it. And so, considering how bullish these moves were and how they were getting above this level and how the measured move was still in play, I just decided it was not worth taking a short here, but it did end up pushing on down. We continue lower. You can see at this point we have this measured move in play, which this measured move, it could be bigger. It really started spiking from there. It could be as big as this. Sometimes if you have an iffy measured move and you just don't quite know, it's best to just see how it reacts to both levels, because if you draw out a measured move and you get an obvious reaction, then it means that there's something to it. It really is that simple. But anyway, so we kind of lost where I was here. So yeah, after the retest, we continue on lower here. It starts pushing on a higher here. We don't reach that measured move, but you can see this downtrend, this first purple leg, got a 2-legged break. We have our first attempt down, correction, and then second attempt down. So this right here is the reversal from the trend playing out, the downtrend playing out. And so as price pushes higher here, we are likely to see some kind of failed second entry. Now it is very bearish at this point. I would be I would not want to be going long until we get a full-on reversal. But I'm just saying it is a common place to see failed second entries pushing higher after playouts. We end up not getting that. It does just make a higher low here and then continues up. No way I'm going to take a higher low, with how bearish it is. But it continues up here. We get a couple legs. Initially, it finds some resistance at that measured move level, ultimately pushing through, and then it really just was forming an uptrend straight up to the key entry point where it immediately resumed the downtrend. So as price pushes lower here, we don't want to go short directly into that measured move level. It's kind of a iffy area because it's stuck between the trend line and the measured move level. So I would just want to wait for it to either break out of the channel or push on down below the measured move level. And so it pushes on down. Now, what I would like to see as it pushes down here is a couple legs back, because this is a good spot for a failed second entry. Now, the downtrend here just resumed. We just had a good bearish reaction to it after this reversal attempt from the smaller downtrend within the wider downtrend playing out. The reversal just failed and continued with the wider trend. So this is a really good spot to get a failed second entry. As you can see, it just doesn't quite happen. It just continues on down, goes straight on down, making a double bottom where it immediately goes into a range, showing that this is a pretty strong swing right here. It's creating a key entry point. And so anyway, price continues lower here. We get this spike down, break, 2 legs down to a new low. So at this point here, let me just draw this out. So at this point here, this downtrend is played out as break and 2 legs down to a new low. Now, just because it's played out, it doesn't mean we're going to go long. Again, it's way too bearish at this point, especially with that, resumption of the trend here, that continuation. No way am I going to go long anywhere in here, and no matter how good it looks, basically. And so when price pushes up, we get our first attempt to reverse, second attempt to reverse. And the reason I call these reversal attempts is because, again, this downtrend just played out with a break to a new low. So we got our first attempt to reverse, second attempt to reverse, and then it ends up holding right at these highs right here. And it was too choppy for me. I didn't want to enter inside of all that chop, even when it pushed out more here. I just wanted to see something more significant, and considering it was holding right off this level here, it was a direct reversal higher off of this level, which shows that it's a strong level, and it was right after this trend playing out. So at this point, what I'm thinking is price may start reversing higher again. And so we do get a good push down here, and so this right here, again, 2 legs up, attempt down to a new low, very quickly fails, pushes higher, and then we get these 2 legs up here. And so what price was forming, it was just forming these bigger picture legs, retesting the key entry point. And so this is why it's important to understand failures and combining legs. So again, I'm just going to explain this so everyone can understand. This right here is an uptrend. It got a break down to here. We got to push up to a new high. So that uptrend is now played out. Now, even though it's an uptrend playing out, it's still important to understand that that's how second entries work. This is a first entry short, second entry short. And second entries are formed based on a trend, getting a break, and then attempting a new high. So first entry short, second entry short, uptrend, break, new high. And then when a trend gets a new high, then that's when it typically reverses. It's considered played out. So price is reversing on down here because of this uptrend playing out. Now, when it's reversing down and then very suddenly spikes back in the other direction, pushing past this swing, then what that's telling you is that this right here, this reversal down, is just a bigger picture break. And you have to combine the 2 previous legs into one leg and then start the second bigger picture leg from the start of this break. And so that's why we combine those 2 legs, drag the second leg up to there, and then we get 2 clear legs up to that measured move where we get a perfect bearish reaction, ended up entering below here after we got back into the channel. And we had this trend line up higher here, but considering how bearish it was and how we got such a great reaction right there to the measured move and closing back into the key entry point, I did not mind pushing it through. We're just riding it to the end of this range here. And so it's very important to understand these levels and to not get confused when you see so many legs. Like sometimes people wonder, why do I see 2 legs right here when there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 legs? It's because I understand price action levels, and I know how to combine the legs into one and when to do that. And that's definitely one of the most important things you need to learn how to do. And so anyway, price continues lower here. We get a very bearish reaction to that. We make a new low. And as soon as it makes that new low, price immediately starts reversing higher. Again, kind of like how I mentioned previously, I don't like how on this reversal higher, the first attempt to reverse is already retesting this level right here. I would want to see price push lower, make 2 clear legs retesting it. Now in this case here, obviously it's not ideal to set up this way, but it is good enough considering it's right after that extremely bearish reaction, continuing the downtrend, right after this, what is basically a big picture failed second entry, which let me draw that out so I can explain that. From here we had to push down, and now that I explained that these are just 2 legs up on a bigger picture, this is the 2-legged break from this downtrend. So downtrend, 2-legged break, bearish reaction, first push down to a new low, and then we got our first attempt to reverse, second attempt to reverse, and even though it didn't reached that measured move. We had a good bearish reaction, and I liked writing it down for 1-to-1 because, again, it's been so bearish at this point. We just had another confirmation. We managed to get through that support level that was forming, and we got 2 legs back, retesting it with a bearish reaction with a measured move still in play. So that's why I like that here. Like I said, on a perfect retest, only the second leg retests it, but if the context is good enough, then it really doesn't matter. So anyway, we continue lower here, and at that point we have a brand new low. Price makes another reversal attempt, and so when price starts pushing higher here, that's when it's a little bit clear to see that this trend is losing steam. So when you have a downtrend, and this of course applies to uptrends as well on the inverse, but in this case here of a downtrend, notice how we push it. Initially we push down, we push back up. It basically goes from side to side to side of the trend. But then as price gets around here, and as it pushes through this support level, it can't really get very far down into the range, meaning it can't get very close to these lows over here. And so this is telling you that the trend is losing steam. It can't even get halfway into the range right here. It makes 2 legs down after pushing off of the key entry point, and it can only get about 20% down into the range, or maybe 25%. That what that's telling you is that the bears are losing steam within this trend. And so that right there was basically the last. I wasn't willing to go short again in this trend after that until we got a much more significant push down, resumption, or basically just pushing in a further percent into the trend. And so anyway, price pushes down here after that retest. We get this failed second entry. It doesn't set up well. It just has a downtrend break, new low, and then only to the tick it's a failed second entry. But I don't like how that downtrend already played out after another retest. So again, this downtrend has a break, 2 legs down to a new low, fully played out, and it didn't get very far. We're already reversing higher, and then after another key entry point test, it's already playing out, making a higher low than that swing. That is really telling you that the bears are losing steam. And so that's why I don't like entering short there. It would have won, but I don't know what's going to do that. So price makes another new low, and then that immediately leads to another reversal higher. Now, it makes a lower low than that one, but it's still very high up within this downtrend right here. It's just, it's clearly going into some kind of, as you can see, it looks like a wedge here. It can't get past a certain level. And so that's why I didn't like going short here. It would have won, but again, I don't know what's going to do that. So price continues up, we break out of this trend, and then it really takes off from there. We get a couple of very small new low attempts, a failure, and then we get a bigger picture new low attempt, and then a much bigger picture failure, and then price just launches off into this uptrend. So we get this first leg up, which obviously, there's smaller legs within it, but which I'll just explain it a little more detailed here. So after the breakout, we have our first attempt at a new low, second attempt at a new low to here, and then a failure. We make this higher low. At this point, I'm not ready to buy this higher low. I would want to see much more significant new low attempts. If price had made a second clear leg down like that with a good bullish reaction, then I would be willing to get in on a short-term reversal higher, within reason, and keeping my targets within any possible support that form. But if you do get an active reversal higher after an initial 2 new low attempts, I would be willing to look to get long, and it just doesn't happen here. So after that first leg, we just get these very shallow legs, and then it takes off. We go into this uptrend. So you can see there is a thinner channel right here. We get a break, or it's really a 2-legged break. You can see there, first leg down, second leg down. Now, even though it's a 2-legged break and it's a second entry long, and this uptrend right here can expect a new high, it did also just retest this major measured move level, and it had a perfect bearish reaction to it. So I'm not going to go long on that. It does end up working. As you can see, we push on up, we make that new high. So now this thin uptrend is played out with a break and a new high. We get this reversal attempt, which fails and continues with the wider uptrend. And so we continue up, as price pushes back above this measured move level, I would like to see a couple legs back retesting it, because at this point it's clearly an active full-on reversal higher. And so if price can manage to get above this major key entry point and then actually retest it with two legs with a good hold above, that would be an excellent long. And it just doesn't happen. So it continues up. We get this one-legged correction, push up to a new high. We get another one-legged correction off the EMA. And then finally up here, we get this first leg down, second leg down, and then a great bullish reaction for 1-to-1 with the measured move still in play. And that's why I like that so much right there. So as you can see, let me just zoom in. We have our first leg down to here, break, and then second leg down. It is a small trade, but the legs are distinct and separated very clearly. And then, of course, the target and stop are relative in size to the trade. It's only for 7 ticks there. So anyway, price continues up, reaches that measured move, has a very slight reaction, and then just continues higher, breaks, retesting that previous measured move level, and then pushes on up to a new high. So uptrend, break, new high, very small reversal attempt, fails, makes that second leg up. So it basically makes a break, 2 legs up to a new high, and then we get our real reversal attempt, which has a strong failure, and that strong failure creates a second bigger picture leg up. So I'm going to explain that I'm going to explain that more detailed. So initially, when this uptrend gets a break, this is the push up to a new high. We've successfully made a new high. It's played out, and we know that price is likely to attempt to reverse. And so that's what price does here. We get the reversal attempt, but then it very quickly fails because it just acts like a break of this push up here and then makes our second leg up. So it's very shallow and choppy, but from the low of this bar here to the high of this bar here, this is all one leg up. It's our second leg up. So again, uptrend, break, first attempt higher, second attempt higher, and then it's made its new high, and then a reversal attempt occurs. So you can see we have our first attempt to reverse down to the low of this bar. We correct back up, and then we get our second attempt to reverse down here, and then very quickly it continues higher. So the reversal fails, and that failure gives us our second bigger picture leg, but we do need to extend it all the way at that point. And so then we'll drag it over, and as you can see, price makes 2 nice clean legs up. It's not perfectly measured, but it's basically measured right there. So let me just get that drawn back on. So it pushes up, reaches the measured move, goes a little bit above it, just a few points, goes sideways, and then we get a good bearish reaction to it. What I would like to see is a clear rush below going into a reversal pattern for a short, but it just doesn't happen. It ends up retesting this swing here, continuing higher, and then it just really goes choppy. There's nothing that I thought was worth entering in any of this, just because this trend line's working higher right here. I really just wanted to see a full-on reversal lower, getting outside of this chop right here before entering short. This all happened right after a major reversal higher, and so at this point the bulls are in play. The bulls are in the market, and so I wouldn't want to go short directly into any of that, but then there also isn't really any good long opportunities because, again, the uptrend did just play out. So it's a competition zone because overall it's looking bullish, so the bulls want to buy, but the uptrend also just played out with 2 legs to a new low, which commonly leads to reversals. And so that's why it goes into this range right here, because there's going to be bulls that want to keep the uptrend alive, and there's going to be bears that want to see the reversal. And so that's why it goes into these chops like that. And anyway, it makes a triple top, takes off down, and we break out of that trend. We don't get any real retest of it. As price pushes lower here, it would be good to see a 2-legged retest of that range low for a short, but we just don't get it. We continue lower in this downtrend. We get this 2-legged break, and I personally don't really like this here because it overshot and then shot above the EMA, and it just didn't seem like the greatest failed second entry. Just overshoot right into a rush above the EMA. It did end up working, but I just wanted to see something a little more clean and a little more separated. Anyway, so price continues down here. This downtrend has a break, pushes down to a new low right at that previous measured move level, and then it takes off from there. So this right here is the first uptrend, and then this whole push down here, this reversal, and kind of like what I explained earlier, the reversal lower from the uptrend playing out with 2 legs to a new high is simply a larger picture break between the combined bigger picture trend, because all of this, this push up, including the break and the 2 legs up to a new high, this is all one trend, all one leg on a bigger picture. And so as soon as the reversal lower from the trend playing out fails and starts continuing higher, that's when we got to combine all those legs into one and then copy this over, and then this is our new measured move higher. So anyway, price continues up from there. We get a break, push up to a new high. It doesn't give us a good failed second entry or anything. That's what I'd like to see in this area, because as soon as it retests that level and takes off, you can look to go long again, because it's clear that you're starting that second leg up. The reversal lower has already played out. We've got a great bullish reaction off of a major level, and so failed second entry in this area would be great, but it just shoots right below the EMA and gets choppy, so nothing there. And we continue up. As you can see, price ends up shooting way above that measured move right there, likely because, of course, we have the larger one in play. And we continue higher. We got this second entry long right there, which I'm going to draw out this wider channel right here. So we have this uptrend going. Price goes through the measured move level. Price overshoots this wider channel that's forming, and then we get this 2-legged retest with this good bullish reaction right there. And the reason that I don't like this right here, which I'm only seeing this right now, but the reason I don't like it is because it got below the EMA right after an overshoot. Overshoots tend to lead to breaks, and at this point, even though the up measured move is still in play, this uptrend has a break and a push up to a new high, and then this is the first reversal attempt after making the new high. So the chances of it breaking are very high, and so this does not look like a good trade at all. And price continues up here. We make a new high. Looks like it's nearly retesting that overnight low now, which let me make sure it's right on there. Yeah. So it didn't quite retest it, but very close. It might as well have retested it. We were getting a decent reaction to that. Price breaks this channel right here. Again, overshoots lead to breaks, and we are now getting a second leg down, attempting a new low for this new downtrend. So downtrend, break, new low, it's played out. So at this point, the bulls are going to want to see a reversal higher and continue with this up measured move that's in play. And the bears are going to want to continue down. They're going to want to continue down because of this uptrend playing out. And then, of course, we're already actively reversing down. And so considering we have the first attempt at a new low, which successfully made it, we're still likely to see a second attempt down. So we just got to stick with what price does. And yeah, we could also just push it right on into a reversal from here. If it attempts a reversal and it just can't set anything up and it can't stay above the EMA, then we can possibly push lower into a continuation failed second entry and get in on the second leg to a new low. But say price pushes up here and then it's staying very bullish and it can't get back below the EMA. If you can get a couple legs retesting it, then you can look to get long on the reversal higher, or I should really say the continuation of the uptrend to reach this measured move, holding above the EMA. And so, there's a few possibilities of what price can do here. You just got to stick with what price does in the moment. And yeah, so that's going to do it for this video. I really appreciate you all watching, and thanks. I'll see y'all tomorrow.